Want to read it? Future engineering students must be able to address, analyze, and handle future complex problems and solutions. Industry is already looking for students who can easily adapt and provide sustainable solutions for societal change. By securing curricula to be both relevant, modernized, and innovative, students are provided with a needed set of skills and competencies necessary for future problem solving. And so in this session, we are going to work related to that. And when we finish, they will give a brief presentation of the papers they have prepared, and then we open for discussion with the audience. We would like that people come and talk freely, not write to the chat. It's okay if you want to write in the chat after, but we rather that you come with your camera and speaker and talk to everyone and make the question you want to do or make a comment, whatever. Okay. So since we don't have the first presentation, I'm going to invite the second presentation. The title is Implementation of ABC Learning Design for Curriculum Development in an African Context. And the author is Bent Nogard from Aalborg University. Is Bent here?
Yes, I'm here together with Henrik Breinhoff from
yes, now I can see you.
Okay.
Hi, Ben.
Hi. Yeah.
I was looking for you here in the.
Yeah, but
Okay,
both.
So Ben, nice to see you again.
Nice to see you again, Ulysses. Okay, so both Henrik and I are here, and it seems like unfortunately we are missing our colleague from Africa, Ernest Kira. I don't know how he pronounced his last name, but Henrik has prepared a presentation, and I think that in the presentation there's also a presentation of the authors and the project and what we are trying to aim at in this presentation. So I will not say a lot. I don't know, do you want to say something, Henrik, before we launch the video?
No, it's a bit unusual to show a video instead of making a presentation, but I spent several hours on making the video based on the recommendations from the organizers. So therefore I will show you the video instead of just talking here. So I'll just share my screen
New
here.
times.
Yes, this is the new times, but let me show you the presentation. It is 3 minutes and 40 seconds, so that is 3 seconds. So it starts here.
Hello everyone. I'd like to tell you about our experiences with implementing the ABC learning design method for curriculum development in an African context. We, the three authors, are together in the Erasmus Plus supported project on enhancing entrepreneurship, innovation and sustainability in higher education in Africa, Asia. Asia work on developing one full curriculum at each of the 5 universities in Tanzania and Ghana. We want to ensure that the curricula are highly relevant to the contemporary economic and social needs of Africa. It happens with the support from people in 5 European universities, and important vehicles for the improved curricula are student-centered learning, for example, problem-based learning, and e-learning. Part of the work was a workshop held at each African university, applying the ABC learning design. The basic version of ABC learning design is created for design of a course, but we developed a version for redesign of a full curriculum. Course leaders, teachers, and students work together in groups with the storyboard and cards, each group focusing on 1 year of the curriculum. The order and content of the course titles were first discussed, and each course were then characterized by 1 or 2 of the ABC learning type cards for acquisition, discussion, practice, investigation, production, and collaboration. Then the participants added extra cards with entrepreneurship and innovation, sustainability, student-centered learning, and e-learning on the relevant courses and added notes. In this way, the whole curriculum was reviewed through discussion in a visual way within 3 to 4 hours, with a particular focus on the 4 focal areas of the EISA project. The outcomes were assessed through observations, reflection journals, surveys, and focus group interviews with the participants. Outcomes differed between universities, but some of them are. Participants were able to discuss the EISA cross-cutting issues in relation to particular courses. They experienced that they had generally poor elaborated and intended learning outcomes and too many courses in their programs. They also found a student work overload in some programs and that online resources may be effectively used in a student-centered perspective. Regarding the ABC learning design process, our findings are: review of a full curriculum in 3 hours was too short time to go into the depth people wanted. It is partly due to the poor ILOs and many small courses, but it is also a common experience with the ABC learning design method. The structured process and also the visualization was noted by the participants as making it easy to explain to outsiders. It was appreciated that students were actually involved in designing their studies. The whole work took its starting point in ILOs, and it would be obvious to include assessment in the process, but time did not allow that. A next natural step would be to move to ABC learning design at course level, which we have done at one of the universities until now. Finally, it can be said that we applied a language of learning models as courses. PBL could possibly be addressed more directly if projects were included on the level of course cards.
Yes, that's it. I hope you heard it, all of you.
Impressive.
Yeah, it was fine. And so I think maybe we can make, since we have only 2 presentations, if anyone has any clarifying question for the normal organization, I should move to the next presentation. But maybe some quick clarifying question for anybody, for Henrik or Bent? No? You can just step out. Okay, so I'm really sorry, but I cannot say your name.
Shell, like the oil company.
How do you spell that? How do you pronounce?
Shell, or Kel. They say in Denmark. So.
Yeah, okay. So we're going to the third presentation, which the title is Using Different Taxonomies to Formulate Learning Outcomes to Innovate Engineering Curriculum Towards PBL. Perspectives from Engineering Educators is presented by Kel Staffas from Uppsala and some of the co-authors. I don't know if they're here also, if you would like to present them or talk more about your presentation.
I think that maybe, I don't know, she's not here, so no,
yes.
It's just.
Yes, I
am.
am.
Yeah, you are, yeah. Okay, I missed you.
Ida.
Yeah. So otherwise, so it's me and Ida, but I will do the presentation. So Ida stands for the brain and I'm for the speak. Okay, so I'm from Uppsala University and I've done this study with Ida, of course, and also 3 others, 2 at Uppsala University and 1 at N2N in Trondheim, Norway. It's like a conceptual paper where we focused on testing how taxonomies could help us to better curricula and to work with curricula for the modern engineering education. And I have some slides. They are quite embarrassing, but PowerPoint presentations for me are always embarrassing, so I don't care. But it goes as follows. You see it now, right?
Yes.
Oh, but I can, oh, there,
Mhm.
there you go. So you all know the title then. So this was a study at 2 engineering universities, and so it was made on courses from Uppsala and NTNU. So, and what we discuss in the paper is what are the strengths and weaknesses in using taxonomies to formulate learning outcomes as means to promote curriculum innovation and PBL implementation. And since neither NTN nor Uppsala is PBL based, so it's more in a general sense on student-centered learning, but we try to hold the PBL perspective. So, and of course, the vision is the engineering curricula for 2030. I mean, learning outcomes and knowledge, skills, and competence, and especially its alignment and coherence. So. So the focus is actually on non-cognitive learning outcomes and transversal skills and teaching methods, of course. The taxonomies we decided to use was 3 taxonomies that all are examples on outcome-based education to improve teaching and learning. And it was Bloom's revised taxonomy, the version from Anderson and Katvold. The Solo taxonomy, I think it's from the constructive alignment theory, and Feisel-Schmidt's technical taxonomy that is specially made for engineering, I think. And when we have a short comparison of the taxonomies in the paper, I just will mention it briefly. The similarities between them, that they all use active verbs to describe the learning, and they all use hierarchies, different levels on the difficulty of what to learn. And they also specify different types of knowledge. The limitations are that they are quite generic in the character, so to speak, that they not actually focus on engineering directly. Oh, sorry about that. And non-cognitive learning outcomes isn't mentioned at all in the taxonomies. So not that we had discovered, at least. The alignment towards PBL then, what we investigated was that we couldn't see it suitable to promote innovation towards modern engineering curricula in the sense of non-cognitive learning outcomes and transversal skills. So that was definitely one of the major, what do you say, slutsats points. And also that it's hard to actually find any PBL approach or student-centered approach for a course and its learning and the coherence and alignment for the curricula. So, and also for the teacher's practice and the students' experience. Although the Feisel-Schmidt's technical taxonomy actually worked in some sense, we felt that it was a bit better in describing the courses and get some idea on how to develop your teaching and learning activities. So it was not completely useless. So what we discussed is, or what we came up with was that we need a taxonomy for PBL engineering education, and it needs to be contextual, and also it needs to include the non-cognitive transversal skills, non-cognitive and transversal skills, of course. And also we need it as an instrument to revise and complement courses and programs. because I mean every course, every program is constantly changing due to different demands. So. And also the teaching activities for student-centered learning needs to be defined. So that was it. That was basically it.
That's good. Ida, would you like to add something
Or correct something?
No. No, I think that it was actually saying that this is a bottom-up looking to the learning outcomes. So when we have an engineer, an educator actually looking into this, even if it has a pedagogical basic knowledge or training, how actually we can convert this more abstract concepts into actually practice. That was actually how the need for this paper kind of emerged. That's one point. And the second point is actually, this is we can say that this paper could be complemented or paired with another paper that Kel wrote with the three other colleagues, that was published in Engineering Frontiers conference. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, that's
yes.
Perfectly correct.
Yes, and in there we actually look into learning outcomes, but we also look into the framework from the European at the European level, and there we also found some misalignment and misconceptions or things that do not come, together to some extent. So that was just, I think it was worth mentioning.
Definitely. It is like a small part of a bigger picture. So that was good compliment.
That's great. Well, since we have the two presentations today and not the third one or the first one, then we can move to our Q&A or discussion, whatever we say the name is. And we already have one question from Bettina Dahl. I don't know, Bettina, if you'd like to make the question, you put on the chat if you can make it alive. We rather have people speaking here.
Yeah, I agree, and also we are not so many, so it's much nicer this way. And I was just I called it the second presentation. I was just looking in the program, but I was just thinking this ABC curriculum change. What do you call it? I thought, I mean, you're in different countries, and I was just thinking, because we had a discussion in the previous session also about African countries, how did they receive it in the different countries, and how was it implemented, or did you see any differences, or can you, if anything? Yeah, I was just wondering.
It's a bit difficult to say. We have, because I don't see, I mean, I really don't see the differences like that, actually, because we have done it a lot in the University of Copenhagen. We have participated, we have organized many ABC workshops, both on course level, but this was on curriculum level, where we looked at the whole curriculum. We also did that on in two instances in University of Copenhagen, where we gathered same big crowd of people looking at the different things here. I think in every time we do it, there's a lot of I mean, people are very positive about it. I think in this case, we were quite in Africa. We were quite successful in the way we designed it, because we designed it on our own. I don't know if you're all familiar with, you're probably not all familiar with the ABC method, but it's made for a course design, and we had to make it up for a curriculum design. The way we did it here was, I think, successful, because we have these four things: entrepreneurship and innovation, we have sustainability, we have student-centered learning and e-learning, that we have to integrate. And it was quite easy to kind of look at the whole curriculum in a short time and say, here in this course we need some sustainability, and we just make some notes about what kind of sustainability is that we need here. And engineering, entrepreneurship, we need in this course, and we make a few notes. So in a short time, it was easy to get that overview, and I think we experience that every time. I wouldn't see any that people, they like the layout. You can see the program or the course on a piece of paper, and you can play with the cards and easily show people what you mean and so on. So it's always a kind of successful tool, I would say. I don't know if Mona is also from our project. Mona have something to say.
I actually would like to say something, if
Yeah.
that's okay.
Plenty.
No, it's just that I think
Go
that
on.
what Bettina is asking is probably also if there is a difference between the countries. So, and I followed the other session, and it was with background in culture. If there was a difference, how it was, how the participant, they sort of reacted to this ABC tool. Wasn't that also a part of your question, Bettina? Oh, never mind. But
Yes.
yeah.
I just had-
But I can say that we each did different workshops. So from Europe we were different teachers on different workshops. But we did research across the countries. It was Ghana and Tanzania. So actually there's only 2 countries, as Henrik presented. But I think that from the research, from the survey we did, there was not any differences in cultural backgrounds to see. I think that it was appreciated in all universities, and as Henrik presented, I think that the results were quite common from the different universities. So maybe Mona, are you there? Do you want to say something also?
Yeah, I would like to add to it that I actually think that the ABC learning design, because it's so much bound up on visualization and on discussion. So oral discussion and visualization of a curriculum. And in that respect, it actually aligns quite well. Unfortunately, now we do not have any Africans at all. Miriam is not with us any longer. But from my experience from Africa, I think that those particular characteristics, the visualization and the oral discussion, aligns very well with African culture. And as Bente just said, all of us have been in different of these ABC learning design workshops in Africa. I was in the one in Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology in Ghana, and it was absolutely extraordinary to see not what Henrik said before about how to integrate the cross-cutting issues, okay, but even the first part of the process, lining up all the courses that they had, because you had to understand the traditional African curricula are very much like what I was going through when I studied as an engineer back in the 60s. You have 6, 7 different courses per day. They are not at all related or aligned. So you end up with an awful lot of bits and pieces of knowledge, and you don't really know how to put that together to use it for anything. And you have exactly the same situation in Africa. You have 6, 7 courses per semester, 2 hours this course, 2 hours that course per week, etc. Very, very standardized type of curricula. And when the teachers realized how many courses they were actually teaching to the students, they got completely shocked themselves, because nobody had an overview except the students. So the students who were there in this workshop, they could say, yeah, it's true, we are totally overloaded. And this course and that course, they overlap too much, and one of them could easily be reduced, and so on and so forth. This idea of visualizing what it actually is that the students do, that was really, really powerful.
Good. Any add from the
Can I-
three of you?
Can I have a follow-up question?
Yes.
Because this is actually related with the training the teachers, right? And I was just quickly saying this ABC learning design actually kind of stuck. You know, you get it in your head. You said, okay, what A and B and C stands for. And my question is actually, I think particularly when we are giving pedagogical training and we take into the curriculum design, curriculum is a system, basically. We have different components that are interdependent, basically. We have the teacher, we have the students, we have assessment, we have learning outcomes. How actually is less complex or less or more intuitive for the trainers to actually go through this? When you have the A for arena, then you have the B for blended learning, and then you have the C for curriculum. So I understood that the C is actually the curriculum design per se, and it's complex. So how this is actually played for the participants to use it in practical terms, actually.
The original method is when you look at a course, like Mona says, in a semester you have 6 courses. In Africa, in Denmark, you might have 3 courses at the same time. So one of these courses, which is so we know what we're talking about, is what you usually use to plan in an ABC workshop, and you spend 1.5 hours on the planning. And of course, you cannot get to any depth with all the subjects and so on. But during the process, you go through a lot of pedagogical discussions, because you try to put the learning types in order, to say, for example, okay, the students should prepare by reading this or maybe taking a quiz. Then they meet up in the class, they get a short introduction, then they have discussion on this, then they do an assignment like this, and so on. So you put those learning types in order. That discussion that creates is usually quite beneficial for getting a common understanding, and that is the most important, I would say, with the ABC workshop. Sometimes you don't get to a really good plan. You don't come out with a good plan for your course, but you have had a lot of discussion, and you have representatives from the course leader, and you have a couple of teachers, 2 or 3 teachers, and then you have 1 or 2 students. So you have a group of people who all have stakes in that course and different views, and so you get usually a good discussion out of it. The way I think we had something which came out also as a kind of a input to a plan, because they have in short time discussed where they needed more innovation in which courses, where they needed to put the sustainability. So now they have those course titles paired with these cross-cutting issues, so they can go back and say, okay, now I need to integrate this, so I have to review my course outline. We couldn't get to that point of, say, reviewing the single courses, but then that would be the next step.
We have a question for the second presentation, but before moving to that, to the second presentation, I'd like just to jump on in the first one that you were presenting, Harry. You in the video you showed that 3 hours, of course, it's too slow for in-depth deepening. And now in your answer to Ida, you mentioned, of course, if you have 6, 7 disciplines, courses in a semester, then you choose one during the ABC workshop. So if you can clarify a little more, for example, when you do this kind of workshop in other countries, maybe in Copenhagen, for example, it's also 3 hours. So this is one part of the question, or it's longer, and then you can go deeper in the discussion. And from your explanation, since you have only 3 hours there, you had only 3 hours in the workshops, and you get one course to make the discussion. Is an attempt actually to create a mindset for people to actually thinking how to keep moving in the planning after the workshop, something like that. Since you have only 3 hours, I don't know if I'm clear, but
Yeah, no, that's correct. I would say it's also a general experience I hear from other universities that use the ABC method. The 1.5 hour they use for planning one course is usually quite short, but they also see it as an advantage because people are there, they are sharp in their minds, and they are coming, they can focus, and but it means that the results are not always as consolidated as they would be if you had more time. So when we have done workshops where we're just focusing on one course, sitting there with 5, 6 people, then they are usually longer because then we want to get to a result that they can work on. So we often use 2 hours or more for that. So other times we have a workshop where, for example, the dean says now we have to look at all the courses in political science, for example. So people are looking at their own course in different groups, and you have 100 people in a room in small groups looking each at one course. In that case, they are not as focused as when they are meeting just for the one course. Then 1.5 hours is fine. Everybody gets a very good insight, very good discussion. And I would say they usually walk out with maybe an idea. Some of them have an idea that they have a new way to go, and they are moving that way. Others a new mindset, but everyone has maybe a little bit changed mindset, I think, because the discussion is always good. The weakness is sometimes that it's difficult to keep the plan that you make in the end, to keep it, because you have this A1 sheet and all the papers here. So usually we take a photo of it, and then whatever happens after that, I don't know. Somebody takes it on and look at it again. Other people, they're just happy with the improved knowledge and understanding that they get out of it. So it's sometimes a bit difficult to carry it on, I think. Mona had a comment.
No, I rather please. I think we should move to the Mohammed's question, because I think people begin to get anxious about that, and they begin doing the chat the discussion about Mohammed's question. So, would you like to make the question by yourself, Mohammed?
Okay.
For
thank you.
The third presentation, please.
Yes, for the third presentation. Yeah. Thank you, Ules, for your and then I would like to ask about the questions for Kias and also maybe for Aida. So I would like to know, because during his presentation, he is using the 3 main taxonomy, which is solo, CA, and also the Faisal technical taxonomy. So I would like to know the interactions between those taxonomies. Which taxonomies is become the foundation for all, or maybe which taxonomies complement to each other? So that would be my first question. My second question is how these taxonomies contribute to the curriculum innovation. Is it during the curriculum review process that you are using the taxonomy and you try to revise the curriculum so that the curriculum become more relevant to the current needs, like for example during the pandemic periods? So that would be my second questions. Thank you.
Actually, I didn't get the first question quite there.
Can you do it again, Mohammed?
Sorry?
I didn't understand the first question. Did you, Aida?
Oh, okay. Shall I repeat the question?
Yeah, I didn't understand it, so.
I would like to know the interactions between the different taxonomies that you mentioned just now.
Yeah.
You mentioned about the solo taxonomy, you mentioned about the Bloom revised taxonomy, and also the technical taxonomy. So I would like to know the complementary between these 3 different taxonomies, and which one serves as the foundation for, in order for you to plan for the curriculum innovation.
Okay, yeah. Definitely for me, it's the Pfizer-Smith taxonomy.
All right.
So I think that works. I have actually a document. It's in Swedish. I have it here, but maybe it's not that. But I can show you just really quick. Yeah.
But Kelly, can I actually ask you to give a little bit background on that taxonomy? I don't know how many people are actually familiar with that taxonomy. And I was not familiar as well until I actually get into this trip with the Kelly.
Yeah, it's good. I don't know. I haven't heard before.
Yeah.
Because it's also very difficult to find documentation on this taxonomy. That's also one of the struggles we had.
Yeah. Since my memory it's much easier for me to show. If you see here, you have the Bloom revised taxonomy. There you have something that's called the cognitive process dimension, and then it's two-dimensional. And then you have the knowledge dimension, and the cognitive process dimension. Then there you have like nouns, they call objects. So you have in the original you have factual knowledge, conceptual knowledge, procedural knowledge, and metacognitive. Metacognitive is some kind of knowledge where you reach like a higher level, where you see the whole and can it's much higher than the other three. So, and then you have on the knowledge dimension, then you have the words, and there you have in the Bloom's revised taxonomy, you have these ones according to Anderson and Krathwohl. And what Anderson and Krathwohl did was that they took Bloom's original taxonomy and made it two-dimensional. So they actually added the objects. So there you have the levels: remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. And then these are in increasing order. And one of the problems we had was that we didn't agree on the order of them. The solid taxonomy is not that different actually, but you have like five different levels of knowledge or understanding actually. And they are like pre-structural, unistructural, multi-structural. They more are like a quantitative kind of knowledge, like just a lower part of learning, so to speak. And the later two, relational, extended, that's more than when you really understand what you're doing in short. So that's and what we discovered there was that it was quite frightening when we checked our courses that we almost always ended up in the first three. So that was a bit embarrassing for our teaching ambitions, so to speak. It was really hard to get to the relational and extended abstract level in terms of learning goals. And then you have the Feisel-Schmitz. That's actually more intuitive to use because the first level is define. Then you have compute, explain, solve, and judge. So that's more. It was easier for us as engineering teachers to actually use that. So it was more obvious what the different levels actually related to. So.
And if I can compliment, because
very shortly, please.
Yes, because what I found it with in terms of technical taxonomy, correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the things I found out is that actually related with the CDIO. And the CDIO, and I think there's a paper from Christina and from the MIT that I now forgot the name of the professor that was responsible for actually the change of curriculum for more project oriented. And the thing is that that's one of the things. So it emerged from a practice, or it's very related with the pedagogical practice that it's recently, actually, I would say. that's one of the things I found out when we were writing and reading about this. The other thing is that if we look into the taxonomy, it's really focused on the content. It's really an engineering perspective on and learning the engineering content, I would say. Because if we look into the judge part, the last part, the examples that are there is judging the solution. So we might actually have the criteria, the success criteria of the solution per se, and everything. So this, and now I'm going to expand a little bit more, because if we step back a little bit and then we actually start talking about problem-based learning and actually the non-cognitive learning outcomes, and actually start to think about that students should be able to adapt, to actually be able to develop the self-directed learning skills and lifelong learning skills, that now it's actually one of the biggest aims of higher education. It's missing, it's not there, right? And this is a little bit on the reflection and also on the context the learning takes place. And I think that here it's a little bit quite narrow into looking to that. So I think that in that sense, the technical taxonomy complements very well the other two that are actually quite very pedagogical in that sense. So it's the other extreme. So I think that's a balance and language here that needs to be kind of translated as well, because disciplines have something of themselves, and then there's something that is across disciplines, and that's what is difficult to navigate when we look into these three and compare and say, okay, where is this in the Solo? Where is this in the Bloom's? Where is it? So I think there's some complementary here as well in this.
Okay. We had a second question from Mohammed, but maybe I should give an opportunity for another person to make another question, if you don't mind, Mohammed. Before,
Yes,
because
that's fine with me.
took quite a long time in the answer for the first one.
Thank you.
It was a nice conversation, but maybe someone else wants to make a point or make a question for either the both presentations. If not, we can jump to the second question from Mohammed. But
Then I forgot it.
no,
Do you know, Ida?
Yes, it's about the curriculum revision and when actually this takes place. Isn't it, Mohammed?
Yes. How do you really apply this taxonomies in order for you to innovate the curriculum?
Yeah. Okay. I mean,
Now,
yeah, you go on, Ida. You go on.
I'm just going to be a little bit mean, but I would like to hear Mona and Hendrik and Bente actually. Because I think this is one of the question is, okay, what if you have to use a learning learning outcome taxonomy in your learning design, what that would be, or if you actually choose any, because I think that's a complementary question. Because that, yeah, do you agree or?
We started, I think, the workshops with looking through our learning outcomes, and they were, I think, in all cases, I mean, using the Bloom's taxonomy. I think in most cases they were used there. So I think it's a very important part of this to start with the intended learning outcomes, and when you need to discuss how, because this is really focusing on the learning activities. We, as I said, usually we also look at assessment, but it's the learning activity. But which I have not looked so much into different types of learning, the different taxonomies here. But it's important also when you do the ABC that you know what your learning outcomes are.
one problem for us here, or at least for me, was that, I mean, you have the learning outcomes, and then I had to make a distinction between learning outcomes from the course or the program and the intended learning outcomes. So that was not the same, and then it became quite obvious that from the course learning outcomes, I had to like create new learning outcomes, and from them, then I can, and then I, with the Fashion-Smith's taxonomy, I actually found a way how to present it with the taxonomy, and then link it to learning activities, which I think is really important. And especially when we focus on non-cognitive skills and transversal skills, that it's really closely, it doesn't have to be exactly that you have to teach or learn it this way, but I mean, it should at least be some connection to it, to the learning activity, to reach the expected level.
Any other add to the discussion? Because I have one point personally.
Mona and Bettina, they had their hands raised.
Oh, I don't see that. Please.
To what you just said now, Kjell, intended learning outcomes is, in my perception, what the teacher wants the students to be able to do once they have completed the particular course that she will be teaching them. The learning outcomes is what actually comes out of it, so to speak, what the students actually learn.
Okay, yeah.
And hopefully, if the course is an aligned course, then those two would be identical and match more or less one-on-one, which will never ever happen completely and totally.
No.
But if the course is properly aligned, that is, if you take your starting point in formulating the intended learning outcomes, this is what I want my students to be able to do once they have completed my course. If you then move on to setting what kinds of assessment are you using, what methods, what procedures, what topics will you be using in the assessment situation in order to actually measure whether the students have achieved the intended learning outcomes. And if you then teach according to those assessment procedures and methods, etc., such that students learn what they are supposed to be able to do in order to be able to pass the exams, so that they can eventually achieve the intended learning outcomes. Then you have an aligned course.
Yeah.
And if that is properly aligned, then back to the question of which of these taxonomies, I'm very grateful, because I didn't know about this Faisal-Smith taxonomy, never seen it before. So that was a good thing. I learned something new today.
Yeah, it was really hard to find the paper, I can say.
Yeah, I can see it seems as if there's only one paper on it. But I was looking into the Bloom taxonomy and the Solo taxonomy, among others, based on a paper by Bettina, to try to find out which one would be better. Both of them, in my perspective, have that same deficiency that you mentioned before, Kjell, namely that non-cognitive qualifications are not dealt with. And especially when we talk the problem-based learning and what we sometimes call the soft skills or the process skills or the personal qualifications or whatever, many dear child has many names, we say in Danish, but like teamwork, like communication, especially teamwork, for example, there's a lot of affectual qualifications involved in teamwork, but you cannot express them neither in the Solo taxonomy nor in the Bloom taxonomy.
No,
so both of them have this deficiency, and I haven't looked long enough to the Faisal-Smith to see if that has the same problem, but I think it might have the same problem.
Yeah,
because,
it has the same problem.
Yeah, as soon as you move up to these sort of personal qualifications that are at a slightly higher level, then it's very difficult to formulate learning outcomes about it. The best I've seen in that perspective, that's what my old friend John Coven has been writing. But yeah, that's another discussion.
Yeah, really good remarks there. That what I meant was that the way we describe the courses here in Uppsala is that it can't be more than 8 learning outcomes, and we have to write them in such a way that they are useless, so to speak. what we actually want them to learn, they are so summarized, so to speak. They can't be that precise that you want. So I think I have, from one course, I have 8 learning goals, and I think in practice it's about 40. So if I do according to Fison-Smith's taxonomy, so 8 becomes like 40. It's more 50 or 60, but yeah, so.
I cannot see from here if there is anyone with the hands raised. But Bettina, Ida said about Bettina.
Yes, I was just, and thank you, Kel, for kind of giving PR to a paper I wrote once.
It was a really good paper, so everyone should read it.
Maybe I should just say, I mean, we actually did that, me and Klaus Brabrand. I was working at Aarhus University at that time, which is not a PBL university. So what we did was to analyze all the science faculties curricula, and we were changing because of the new grading scale. So we used that to analyze all curricula and see if there's any progression using the Solo taxonomy, and we did the same at SDU. And actually, what are you saying about these non-cognitive skills? We ran into the same problem. We call them professional skills, and we had to take that out because it didn't fit any of the Solo steps. But another problem we also faced then was, what do you mean? I mean, does it mean that Solo 5 is more difficult than Solo 4, and which is more difficult than Solo 3, and But then we actually thought, well, you cannot really say that, because you could have like a very abstract, intensive course where it's very difficult to even get to Solo 2. Whereas a kind of easier course, it's easier to work on Solo 4. Yeah. So that's another problem, because it's just the competencies, it's not the content. And actually, these competencies, that the way it's described in both Solo Revised and Solo and Bloom Revised, it's kind of floating in empty space, those competencies, these verbs. So somehow you have to relate them to some actual content to find out. So what is difficult, what is not. So but it's very interesting, and I agree with Mo. I've never heard about Faisal, but I think it's very interesting and something we should look into. So thank you for bringing that up to everybody.
Yeah, you can't find the paper online, unfortunately, but you can check at the library. I found it in Stockholm at the library, so it's part of a book.
Can I just have a follow-up with Bettina and actually Mona in this non-cognitive, and that's where we actually start hitting a wall, because the send is like, oh, we need to develop this and this and this now, because teamwork, collaboration, or flexibility, adaptability, because the future changed so fast and so and so and so. And then when we are prepared, we go back to the traditional, or we go back to the focus of the content, and then we go back to, and I think that here is actually with innovation, and then I think relates with your question, Mohammed, is actually when we are revising the curriculum, or when we are actually planning the curriculum or the courses or whatever, we actually need to think about, okay, what is the type of learning outcome? This is knowledge, this is the declarative knowledge, this is content. This is not content per se, this is a non-cognitive competence. Then we need to think about the learning environment and the activities. And this is where PBL plays a very good role in terms of the situated learning, because it's the situation students are involved in that actually pulls them to act. And then the assessment cannot be traditional as well. We have to see assessment in a different way, because then the question is, what is the metrics of these learning outcomes? They should actually be assessed at all in the first place, because they are also quite individual, right? They are something from the person to start with. So I think this is a very interesting discussion in that sense. So we actually need to be critical in sense, in the way if we design or if we revise or whatever, we need to say, okay, what do we do and how we do it in terms of learning environment, in terms of activities, in terms of assessment, I would say.
Yeah, that's where the constructive alignment came in, I guess.
Yeah.
Can I add in a bit on Ida's comment? Because I
we
think it's
have
really
only 2 minutes
to...
left, moment, so
Oh,
very
okay.
quick, because I want to make a point also.
Okay. I think it's very important for us to really identify our learning outcome, and then from there we try to align with the activity. So the learning outcome can be the knowledge, can be the affective, or can be psychomotor even, because that is the basic of the learning outcome. And then we try to align it with the teaching and learning activities, and also what kind of assessment that we want to implement. So in PBL, of course, we should see it from the perspective of the alternative assessment on how do you want to assess the group collaborations, the group dynamics, and so on. So thank you for all of your response.
Yeah,
very good one.
I think it was a nice discussion we had, mainly about the taxonomies, and all the people from the other papers jumped in, and it was a really good discussion. I just would like to add my personal perspective, since I'm not an engineer and I work a lot with non-cognitive issues like the social emotional learning that I think you, as Mona said and Ida also said, we should have to consider, and PBL is prone to open that space for us to think on social emotional learning. For example, for engineers, we could kind of measure something like related to engagement, for example. It is something really important if you are training any professional. But one specific word that I think is missing is about ethics, commitment to society, and let's put the word ethics behind. So I think we should consider that when training or developing any professional, being an engineer or a sociologist or whatever. So that's my add to don't let us don't forget about ethics when designing any assessment or curriculum, whatever. Well, we are right on time, and I have to thank you very much for the presenters, and the discussion we had here was really a nice session, in my opinion. I hope in your opinion also. And thank you very much. And any comments or whatever, you can send in the chat. And
yeah. Take care, you all.
Thank you very much. Yes, it was a pleasure. Bye.
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 yes.
Bye.
And for those I haven't seen for a long time, nice
Bye.
to see you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.